it's tragic what's happened. I think it's unnecessary. I think we made a serious mistake in doing this in this way. It's not just about the Afghan people, it's about us and our security. Because you've now got this group back in charge of Afghanistan. They will give protection and succor to Al-Qaeda. You've got ISIS already in the country trying to operate at the same time. You know, you look around the world, and the only people really cheering this decision are the people hostile to Western interests.
Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair talking about the situation currently in Afghanistan. Over the weekend, you may have seen on Fox News Sunday, current Secretary of State Tony Blinken, talking to Chris Wallace, asked about the contradictory statements of President Biden in his various press conferences.
Does the president not know what's going on?
This is an incredibly emotional time for many of us.
The president said Al-Qaeda is gone. It's not gone. The president said he's not heard any criticism from the allies. There's been a lot of criticism from the allies. Words matter, and the words of the president matter most.
Chris, all I can tell you is what I've heard. And again, this is a powerfully emotional time for a lot of allies and partners, as it is for me, as it is for us.
Let's bring in our panel. Guy Benson, political editor at townhall.com, host of the Guy Benson Show on Fox News Radio. Harold Ford Jr., former Tennessee Congressman, CEO of Empowerment Inclusion Capital. And Trey Gowdy, former Congressman from South Carolina. Trey, I was struck by that answer by the Secretary of State, that it was an emotional time for all of us. Not answered specifically about the president's statements back and forth. It's a real emotional time for the Americans on the outside of that Taliban ring.
Yeah, if Tony Blinken thinks it's emotional to be on Chris Wallace's show, try hanging on to the wheel of an airplane that's taken off. I mean, but you know what, Brett? The only thing that's been worse than the policy, the execution of the policy, has been the explanation from the Biden administration. They can't agree on whether Al-Qaeda is still there or not. They can't agree whether the airport is safe, and they can't agree on whether or not Biden was given different military advice. I mean, they're feckless. And the best debates in Washington right now are the ones taking place within the Biden administration.
It is quite something to see, Harold. This exchange with Peter Doocy today about stranded Americans also raised some eyebrows. Take a listen.
Most of the criticism is not of leaving Afghanistan. It's the way that he has ordered it to happen by pulling the troops before getting these Americans who are now stranded. Does he have a sense of that?
First of all, I think it's irresponsible to say Americans are stranded. They are not. We are committed to bringing Americans who want to come home, home.
All right, Harold, clearly there are Americans who feel stranded and they haven't been able to get to the airport. We just have to stipulate that. And there are 8 days until this deadline that the president apparently is deciding on August 31st. So what about that?
First, it's good to be with you. I think the 8 days from now, that's what worries and concerns me the most. And we can parse words, and I know, and like Jen Psaki, I do think there are Americans that are stranded there. At least they feel like they are stranded. The context, I agree as I often do. I agree with Trey that we all wanted to exit, or many wanted to exit, but the execution is the problem. Serious-minded people have to be willing to set aside the politics here for a moment, and let's focus on Democrat and Republican. What resources will be needed if the Taliban's to be believed that they want us out before the 31st and aren't for extending the deadline? What are we prepared to do? I think the president's got to think long and hard about that and be ready to articulate that to the country. I listened to Prime Minister Blair, the former Prime Minister, and I like him too. But he also was part of an effort that diverted resources under President Bush. He agreed from Afghanistan's counterterrorism efforts to go to war with Iraq, which I think history will prove probably was a mistake. I voted for that war based on what was told to me in the Congress. There's no doubt occupying forces in Afghanistan don't work. Alexander the Great suffered his only defeat there, and obviously the Russians did. Now, that gives no excuse for why this president, and I would argue his predecessor, couldn't get a better deal to get the extraction of not only Americans out, but our Afghan allies. But unfortunately for President Biden, it's on his watch now. And as he shared the other day, the buck stops with him, and they're going to have a better plan if it extends beyond August 31st to get Americans out of Afghanistan safely.
And the thought now, Guy, is that this decision has to be made pretty quickly. If it is going to be a deadline of August 31st in the next 24 hours, they need to come up with yes, that is, or no, that isn't. The Taliban says that's a red line for them. Why we, as the greatest military in the world, care about that, I don't know. Your thoughts?
Not only care about it, it seems like in some ways we're paralyzed or beholden to it, which is sort of a shocking turn of events. Now, you're right, that decision has to be made very soon. Part of the problem here, Brett, is it seems like many decisions involving this withdrawal should have been made weeks or months sooner than they actually were. And going back to that clip of Jen Psaki today and that exchange with Peter Doocy, I have been mystified repeatedly on the policy and the messaging choices of this administration on this issue and the withdrawal in particular. I was particularly mystified by her choice, the White House press secretary's decision that she made to pick a fight on parsing the word stranded, involving thousands of Americans and allies who are definitionally stranded right now. They didn't say abandoned. Peter didn't use that word, abandoned forever. Right now they are stranded. There is example after example pouring in from people, Americans and otherwise, who feel and are stranded. And this is once again, it goes back to the point that Chris Wallace was hammering on, the canyon between the rhetoric of the administration and the reality on the ground, and they stepped in it again today.
Yeah, and quickly, I mean, politics is a part of this. It's always a part of anything in Washington, Trey. The House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy tweets out, according to President Biden, Americans can easily get to the airport in Kabul. They can't. Al-Qaeda is no longer in Afghanistan. They are. The border is secure. It isn't. Republicans, I mean, they have to want the solution, but obviously they're taking this moment to say this is screwed up.
I think part of what Kevin's doing there is just reminding the media how fascinated they were with Biden's experience and this whole America's back. And the reality is America's leaving and the Taliban is back. And my guess is McCarthy was poking more at the media than he was at Biden.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.